Welcome to the Dapper community call on June 15th. Thank you all for making the time and joining. We have quite a few agenda items that I think will be interesting. First of all, we're going to discuss the upcoming version 1.3 release. As you know, we've shipped version 1.2 a couple weeks ago and kind of working towards our version 1.3 release. So Arthur is going to go over the timeline and some of the features that are coming up there. Then Hal is gonna kind of talk about actual reentrancy and also do a little demo. And we're gonna also visit the VS Code extension and some of the planned work and effort that's being put into making that extension better as part of our effort to make Dapper tooling better. And we'd love to get some feedback in that session when we get there. As always, we're gonna leave some time for open discussion. Hopefully, we'll have like a really good discussion. Feel free to bring up anything, really, whether we covered it today or you just have questions or feedback or suggestions. And as a reminder, always, if you don't get a chance to opt in or you're watching this being recorded on YouTube, there's always Discord. We have a really nice community over in Discord and happy to continue discussions there, take more feedback, and so on. So let's get to it. So with that, let's start talking about the version 1.3 release. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thanks, Ori. So we're working now on the 1.3 release, and the projected date is the 21st of July. We code freeze about 10 days prior. And that's the issue that if you want to keep track of the milestones for each repository and issues we're working on. Okay, so that's the parent issue for the release. Next. So what are we delivering? So one major deliverable is already merged into master, is going to be demoed soon in the next call. Is for Grpc Proxy. So today, when you invoke Grpc service, you have to implement our own Grpc service interface and have a wrapper that actually invokes a service, which is it's very intrusive, right? So there's a new solution now where can you click again, or I think we'll complete the animation. Yeah, thank you. So now you can have invocation among Grpc service and client without changing the approach. The service is still the same. There's no code change except from one simple annotation that would tell Dapper, intercept this call and invoke this service from me. So it's just a matter of a metadata addition on the client side, and no code change on the server side. So this is going to be demoed soon. Stay tuned. That's a major feature for 1.3. Next. You can hit. Okay, thanks. So another one is filtering pub sub events. So as on the subscriber side, we will allow you to add some basic filtering logic prior to Dapper delivering the message to your subscriber app. So this will allow you, for example, to route messages differently based on for endpoint based on the filter criteria. And that can simplify some of the logic and routing you might have in your app. So again, more logic moving out of the app into the sidecar. This is more like an enhancement. It's not necessarily a feature. So today, if you're using actors and reminders in actors, I don't know if you've noticed that, but Dapper uses a single record in the database to keep track of all reminders. For all instances of the reminder. So the reason is, so if you have a reminder with, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 actor IDs, all of them will fall in the same record, right? So, and if the actor ID is handling a different sidecar, so suddenly there's a race condition, there's a race to write into that state store. And with do tag checks, as you might have seen recently, one of the changes we had to guarantee consistency in these writes. But still it's not performant. So we're going to make a change soon that will spread this data across the database and don't have a single record for all of them. So this will improve performance in how many reminders you can register per second. So we have a performance test already written for that that shows the limitation, and we're going to keep working on remove the bottleneck and see how the performance test responds to this new capability. So we're going to work on this. I'm not going to share exactly the details of the implementation yet, but the idea is that we're going to split this across multiple records in the database. And again, backwards compatible. Can you hit play again, please, or one more time? Yeah. Okay, thanks. So today in Dapper, you have, when you get a Dapper sidecar, you get all the components in components contrib. And some users might not want all of them. It might be for reducing exposure to vulnerabilities, or might be to reduce size of the binary. For whatever reason, if you want to have a more concise build, we will support you to bring your own configuration and be able to build Dapper in your fork, of course, with only the components you want. So you can handpick which components. In this case, is the ones marked in green. They hit a different sidecar binary. So we're going to support that 1.2. That's going to be a configuration. Dapper, we're still going to ship it with all of them, okay? But we enable those that want to have their own build, custom build very easily, just by changing configuration. Another feature is the signing of the build artifacts. It's a work in progress by our community member. The community has been great in adding new features actually to Dapper, where all of Dapper, we're going to have a signature file for every artifact in our build. So today we already have the checksum, but now we're going one step ahead. We're going to have signature as well. Next. Another feature in the backlog, and we expect this to be completed, is to have TTL in the state store. It has been asked by some community members. We expect that to have a feature where the TTL in seconds might be supported by components. So we write this to the record when writing to the database. If the feature is not supported, Dapper will not offer a layer on top, because handling TTL auto deletion of records, it's not something that Dapper can handle separately, because it requires a lot of background jobs to keep track of which items have to be deleted. It's actually a major undertaking. But if the state store supports, we can pass through the information. So it's in there for 1.3, and I expect that to be completed. Alibaba has proposed a new output binding. It's in our backlog. It's for table store. So there will be a new output binding coming from Alibaba customers. So stay tuned. There'll be a new component soon. That's the issue if you want to track the work. Now I'll let Hal talk about after reentrancy. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Artur, for covering the kind of main feature for version 1.3. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so this is just a reminder. Feel free to drop some questions there. We can also continue in talking about this in the open discussion section. But one thing I do want to kind of stress, as Artur kind of mentioned through these features, a lot of them are either being requested by the community or being basically even developed by the community and contributed by community members. And I just want to remind you that maintainers in the various Dapper repos are looking at things like engagement and thumbs up and just like really healthy discussions around features. So if you want to affect what goes into the next releases and kind of have an impact, then please be engaged. We do look to those issues, how many kind of thumbs up the issue gets, how much of a discussion and reaction, how people are kind of perceiving it and maybe trying to tweak it and suggest improvements. It's not the only metric, of course, and it is the maintainer discretion on prioritizing and whether we are doing this, but it is a very strong signal. It really helps us sift through the various issues. So thank you if you've been doing that, and please keep doing it as well. And with that, Hal, I think I'll let you share because I know you're going to demo as well. So let me stop sharing.
Yep, I can take that over.
Oh, wait, and I see there's a question actually from Kai Archer. For TTL, would a negative value be allowed and hence -1 push to Cosmos DB state store and hence delete the record, or is it prohibited?
So this will be per component. We can. I don't think -1 should delete the record right away because it doesn't make sense to write a value delete right away. So we can definitely do handling on those corner cases. -1, I would say, might mean deleted or simply a photo 4. So we haven't decided that yet. But yeah, great question. I don't think you should delete the record right away.
Okay, Hal, do you want to go ahead and share?
I sure can. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about actor reentrancy. So this is a feature that we introduced in 1.2. It's currently under preview features. So I'm going to talk about that briefly in a bit, but I'll go through reentrancy, kind of what it is, how to use it, and then give kind of a brief example on what we think might be a fun use case for it, just kind of give ideas of how you can use it. And then I'll show you a brief example again on how to use it in the Java SDK. So first, important things are preview features. So this is also introduced in 1.2, and essentially what it allows you to do is you're able to tell Dapper which new features you may or may not want to use. Currently, the only supported preview feature is actor reentrancy, which you can see in this little configuration here. But this configuration that I have is just the standard Dapper configuration that you can either you can choose to run with the Dapper CLI. When you run an app, you can just specify the config and do it that way, or you can use Kubernetes and apply it as a configuration component. But this is it's the same application or same configuration that you specify things like tracing in. So it's already supported, already there, and this is the only feature so far. But we will, I think, add new ones in the future.
So just a quick comment, Hal, sorry for interrupting, but the preview feature configuration and flag, that's unrelated to the actor reentrancy. That's a general capability we're adding to Dapper, and we're going to start leveraging it moving forward. So whenever there's a new release, we really want you to look at the release notes and see if there's any preview feature configuration. So these are features that we don't necessarily recommend it to use in production. We want to put out there and have people start testing and maybe getting feedback. Maybe they're not maybe they're not complete, maybe they're not robust yet. Just a way to kind of add, a way to add preview features. And we're kind of starting this whole thing with the actor reentrancy feature. So I think that's a great addition and could really help us improve the product or the Dapper as the project in general. And it's great to see it first being used here. So I just wanted to make sure that distinction, that people don't think this is part of actor reentrancy. It's just the first way you can enable something like this, and I think it's pretty cool.
Exactly, yeah. That's a good clarification. And yeah, I bring it up today just because you need to, if you want to use reentrancy, you need to enable it. So it seemed like a good place to bring it up. Okay, but on to reentrancy. So what is reentrancy? As a general question. So say we have a customer who wants to use actors. We know that in the current place, you can have multiple actors. They can be of different types and different IDs. So say in this use case, we have these two actors, actor A1 and actor B1. Now, in the standard case, the user can call actor A1, everything is happy. They can also call actor A1 can call actor B1. Again, that's still happy because one of the core tenets of actors is that everything is single-threaded. So as long as we're going in one continuous little thread, as long as B returns back to A and back to the user, everything is happy. Now, unfortunately, if say actor B1 wanted to call back into actor A1, if it needed any kind of intercommunication or other information from A1, right now, without reentrancy, that call is actually blocked because the first call into actor A1 has locked the actor. So when you get a new call from actor B1 back into the first actor, it hits the lock, and that lock is going to be there until the first call to actor actor A1 finishes, and that can't finish until the call to actor B1 finishes, which can't finish until the call to the new call to actor A1 finishes. So you're now in a deadlock and you can no longer progress. So really all Reentrancy is doing is it removes that little block there. So then, B1 can call into A1, and as long as it's calling from the same chain, or the same chain, or like the same request chain, which again preserves the single-threaded nature of actors, because we're still just doing one solid flow through, you can now make that call back and forth. So the important distinction here is that, say we have that same use case where, Dapper, we're calling into actor A1 there, but we have the third actor C here, and we start a call for it as well. Because we've started a call to actor A1 and we started a call to actor C1, these are two distinct operations. So like both of which have their own reentrant context, which is that single threaded chain. So actor C1, even with reentrancy, will not be able to call actor A1 until A1 has finished its original call chain. So reentrancy does not add true multi-threading to actors, and I think that's a key takeaway here. It is just adding that single-threaded context where you can interleave back and forth between the same actors. So how does it work? It's two parts, essentially. We have a reentrancy configuration, which goes in the same section of the same configuration that actors already have to provide to Dapper, which is the configuration that provides the supported actor types, the timeouts, whether or not to rebalance actors, all the general features there. We add a new element to it, which is pretty simple. It's just the enabled flag, which is whether or not reentrancy is enabled, and also the reentrant stack limit. And what that is Dapper is actually keeping track of how deep into the call chain we're going for reentrant actors. So you can place a limit on it. Say if you wanted to, if you only wanted to go 16 calls deep, you could specify that. And this is just a way of making sure that you don't have a runaway, reentrant circle where you're just looping back and calling the same actor over and over again, and eventually, either running out of resources or timing out or what have you. So that's just a kind of like a safety that you can put on, although that option is optional, and I think by default it is 32. So then the actual calls are just tracked via a Dapper Reentrancy ID header. So it is actually just a really simple process where when a new call is started, we generate a new reentrant ID, and then that's just passed along through the entire request chain. And as long as you're passing that through, you'll be able to continue your reentrant calls. If that is not passed through, again, Dapper will see it as a new reentrant context, and then it'll generate a new one. And then we won't be able to do the matching to know if you're in that same call chain. So that's the important part there. And really, that's the only two things that you need for reentrancy inside the Dapper runtime. So it's pretty straightforward, thankfully. So then here's a brief example of what we think you could use reentrancy for. So say you wanted to use Dapper as a workflow manager. This is an area where I personally at least have some interest in this. And I feel like actors fit into this kind of use case very well, because now that we have the reentrancy, you could see yourself having a general actor or even a service that does workflow management. But since we're using actors, we can now set our workflows to run on a reminder that can actually trigger workflows. And then when you're running them, you can have this one actor start calling into other actors. And then because of reentrancy, the Dapper actor can now call home. Essentially, it allows you to enable, what we think of as long-running workflows, where you might be able to kick something off and say, hey, my worker actor, go and look at this data set and do some aggregation or some parsing or whatever workflow you have that could take upwards of half an hour, multiple hours, things of that sort, where you wouldn't want to keep that call open and keep everything waiting like that. But now you can actually have heartbeats back and forth, where if we stop receiving heartbeats from the the first actor, well then maybe we know that actor has actually died somewhere in the middle of that request, and now needs to be re-triggered. So we can start having this kind of workflow management. And because they're actors, we get a lot of benefits out of it. You know, you have your state isolation. If you want to do scaling, you can do multiple reminders to multiple different workflow types or multiple different actors. You can even add in more actors that bind with other things. You get the scalability, you get the single threaded nature, you get the isolation of your state. So it's kind of just a simple example of where Reentrancy might come in handy in the future. Because again, this is a preview feature. You know, we don't really have much in the way of, or don't have much leveraging it right now. So just kind of wanted to give an example to people to kind of get ideas of where this feature might come in handy going forward. And now I can show you how this works in the Java SDK. So in the Java SDK, like I was saying earlier, this is all done through the configuration of the actors that already exist. So in the Java SDK, when you're creating an actor, you can already set, you know, a very long, or not very long, but you can set a list of options that the actors already need, and then basically we're just adding this one step forward here, where now we can say that the actor Reentrancy config is set to true. And we're setting this to null, which means that we're using the default value. And then we can just go in and register our workers or our two actors. And these are now both fully reentrant actors. So they can talk back and forth to each other. And the benefit of using the SDK in this case is that we can actually have this be essentially all the Reentrancy is fully automated for you after you set this one thing, or the one config entry here. So you can see I have a client where I call into my actors. So I'm just doing something a little silly here. This is a manager worker example. They don't actually do anything, but you can see that when I invoke this method on my service, it goes in and it calls my actors. In the Java SDK, when you utilize actors, they actually work a lot like standard Java classes, where I create an actor proxy of the type of actor that I want, and I give it my actor client. I then go through and I create a new one. I give it an ID. This is my manager. And then I build it, which then you can see actually gives me just a raw Java interface. And then I can then call methods inside that Java interface. And that's actually in the background was going through Dapr and making all the associated calls. And you can see in my interface, the only thing that has fresh specific is I tell it what the type is and I tell it what methods it has, and that's it. So if we go into the implementation of it, again, you can see it's just a Java method. In this case, because it's reentrant, I'm calling in another actor. So I'm making my worker actor and I call it to do some work. I'm giving it a random work item to work on. And then again, it just is another simple Java class. And this one itself says that it's doing some work. It's not really doing anything other than saying, calling back to that first actor that we had and saying that I've completed the work. So in a non-reentrant case, this would fail because the call from the worker back to the manager would hang forever. But in this case, you know, in reentrant case, it will go through. And as you can see, like other than that one config line there, I've had to set up nothing for reentrancy. It's all handled in the background for the Java SDK, and I can show a little example of that running. So I can have I can start up my Java actor. You can see it's setting up all of its happy ports and everything. And then I can go down here and I can actually just use the Dapr CLI to invoke the Java actor method. And there we go. You can see I have a lot of debugging here to kind of show that it's you know, what's actually happening. But you can see that when we go into the actor or the actor framework, which is probably easier if I do this. So we go in and we keep track of everything, and you can see that we have our managers called. Then we go into the worker's called. It's now done the work down here. and then it calls back into the manager. You can see that it says that the manager is done or does the work there, and then it releases the manager, releases the worker, releases the manager. The reason why it has to do that, the 3 releases there, is because, again, we're keeping track of the stack depth here. So in that manager, we're actually saying that we're releasing the first level, or the second level deep in the stack of it. When we complete that complete work method, then we can release the worker, and the worker is actually now fully released, and then finally release the manager again, and now the manager is fully released because it's had all of its active requests completed. So that's Reentrancy.
Great, thank you, Hal. I saw a note there from Xavier about using this in kind of like a workflow scenario. So I saw that you might open an issue. We can maybe discuss this when we have time at the end of the call. And there's a question now from George. In the first example, when actor A and actor B are having their back and forth re-entrant conversation, can actor X call actor A, or is actor X blocked until actor A and actor B are done with their re-entrant conversation?
Yeah, so actor X can't call actor A until they're done with their re-entrant conversation, because it's treated as a separate request. And again, because actors guarantee single-threaded execution, the whole re-entrant context is one single-threaded thing, and then the next new request starts after that was completed.
Great. Thank you, Hal, for sharing this. And now we'll move on to the last section. We're going to talk about VS Code extension. And this is work that Jason and Shruti have started to look at the current VS Code extension. If you didn't know, we have one, and kind of try to improve it. Also on the call, I see we got Philip Hoff and Mike Morton, who are also part of the tool team at Microsoft and are also kind of very involved in this. So thank you for joining, and we have like a really interesting session here, and we'd love to get feedback from everybody. Even if you're watching this recorded, we'd love to get your feedback on Discord or wherever. So with that, Jason, take it away.
Yeah. So this is either meant to introduce you to a extension that we currently have for Visual Studio Code, or also just kind of like give you an update on what the situation currently is. And again, just kind of like to reiterate, we would love feedback either on Discord or also like the actual GitHub that's currently VS Code Dapper. So whatever ways you guys want to reach out to us, we would appreciate it. Well, let's just start out real quick, just talking about the current features. The current extension currently allows you to see all Dapper instances currently running locally. It allows you to do get and post methods via command, and it allows you to publish messages to your applications. And it also allows you to improve your debugging experience with VS Code and Dapper by allowing you to scaffold certain configurations in your launch.json and your task.json in order to help connect everything you need to connect for Dapper to interact with the debugger. And to the right, you can kind of see just a view of what you would actually be looking at if you had the extension running on VS Code. So now let's just talk about some possible scenarios that you might encounter as a developer. Let's say hypothetically you had multiple Dapper applications running and you had so many ports that you had to use for your application and so many ports that you had to use for Dapper. Or let's say you had a problem understanding which of your Dapper applications are currently dealing with multiple components and which components are currently dealing with those applications as well. And also, let's just say that you're currently running Dapper D services instead of the Dapper CLI, and by mistake, you might forget to actually dictate to Dapper D which ports it wants to use. Well, currently we're trying to solve all those problems by adding and augmenting new features to the extension in order to like address those. For one, for the first scenario that we encountered, we're dealing with multiple Dapper applications and not being able to keep track of all the metadata and all the parameters that they're currently using. We've decided to incorporate a visualization of those Dapper parameters for VS Code extension. And what this means is that we're going to allow you to see those parameters every time you click on an instance of the Dapper application currently running that's being detected by the Visual Studio Code extension. That also means that we're going to also be exposing more parameters in the test.json to improve the customization of the debugging that you currently be running towards. And what that means is that in the test.json, we're gonna try to guide you towards being able to understand that there are a lot of options that you can do in order to customize the way that you want to run Dapr D. And this also includes adding a scaffolding method for templating certain components. That way, in case you ever get stuck and you wanted to create the YAML file, but you weren't sure of, oh, I'm using this certain service, I don't understand exactly how to connect it to Dapr. We're trying to like facilitate that for you by creating just at least a basic template that you can easily go back and forth and customize however you want. And this also includes better port management for your Dapr D instances, especially when running on the VS Code extension. Currently, right now, it's currently running on a default ports, which can create a little bit of issues if you do decide to run multiple services of Dapr D. So we've decided to try to prevent collisions of those ports. Number 5, that also means improving the experience by allowing every interaction that you do with the VS Code extension to run towards a VS Code sidecar of Dapr in order to just kind of improve the way that it interacts overall with the app and also just kind of like increase some efficiencies. Here you can see some of the mockups of what we're trying to hopefully get for the user in order to like help you guys understand, help you guys just achieve overall much better experience. As you can see here, the user's clicking on a Dapr configuration file, and it opens up a detail view where you can see the parameters and the metadata of it. And this is kind of something you would see for even just the instance itself. So if I had clicked on the Python app, I would end up seeing app port, Dapr HTTP port, the command that I used for the app to run, such as, npm run. And over here, you can also just see the components and the configurations after just expanding the app. And also we have the commands that we mentioned earlier, where if you right click on a Dapr instance, you can just either do an invoke get, invoke post, publish a message to it, or you can even just stop the application directly from VS Code. In development right now, that we've gotten to a pretty good stage, are currently a Dapper Dashboard support. And this means that we've currently allowed you to just instantly initialize the Dapper Dashboard and open up a browser window to view the dashboard directly from VS Code. We've already implemented the Dapper stopping applications command, and we've also already implemented a visualization of the component metadata. And in order to like demo all of this, Shruti is going to take it over and she'll just kind of show you a working version of it. But before we do that, are there any questions or anything like that?
So I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but again, feel free to give us feedback on just anything that Jason just showed. If you haven't tried, by the way, the VS Code extension, feel free to try it and kind of give feedback afterwards in Discord or whatever. But we really would love to kind of get an understanding from you if the planned features that Jason just went over, if you feel they're gonna kind of be valuable to you, if you have any other ideas or thoughts or requests. And this is really supposed to address the kind of inner loop process of developing an application with Dapper on your local machine, at least at this stage. So yeah, any thoughts are welcome.
Sounds good. I guess we're good for the demo.
Yeah, so I'll just pull up the Visual Studio Code. So in case you haven't used the Dapper extension before, you should be able to just go to the marketplace, search it up, and then this is the extension. And once you install the extension, then it'll show up in the side view right here. So right now you can see in this application view that Jason was talking about, there are no Dapper applications that are running, and we can kind of do like a sanity check there. And if we do a Dapper list, again, there's no instances running. So we're going to spin up 2 different Dapper apps. And these don't necessarily do anything. They're just for the purpose of this demo. So the first one is this Node app, and you can see that it's automatically populated within this application view. And the second one we're going to run is this loyalty service app. And then the same thing happens. It's populated here. So the next thing that we can show is the Dapper Dashboard. So there's this little icon at the top where you can open the dashboard and it'll take you to just like the HTTP page for the dashboard. And you can see the 2 services that we just started are here. So if we go back to the extension, one of the features that Jason had mentioned was being able to stop the application. So let's say I have this Node app and I want to make some changes to it and then spin it up again. What I can do is I can stop the application. So again, like Jason was saying, initially we only had these initial 3, so you're only able to get, post, and publish, but now we have the ability to stop that selected application. And when we do that, you can see it's no longer within this applications tree view, and you also get a nice pop-up here saying that your app was stopped successfully. In the event that there's some problem with your app stopping, you'll also get like a failure message here saying that there's some like error code with stopping that app. And then finally, this drop down kind of exposes the metadata that's associated with this service. So this service uses 2 different components, and you can see the names of those components here. So my pub sub and Redis store. And eventually we do want to have the capabilities to like edit these components and see the different like metadata associated with each of these components. And that again will show up in like the detail view or a web view or some other sort of like UI feedback that's associated with this specific service. But again, these are just some of the initial features that we've implemented. So we'd love to get some feedback on these, as well as the things that Jason mentioned in his presentation. But that's pretty much what we have in development right now.
Great, thank you. And I see there's been a few kind of questions starting to pop up in the chat. But maybe first, Mike, I know you wanted to bring something up. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, hi, Mike Morton. Thanks, Ori, I appreciate it. Great demo, Jason and Shruti. Just to point out, some of the features that the 2 of them showed aren't available yet in the extension that's released, but they should be shortly. Just wanted to point that out if you go looking for some of these newer features. But go ahead and install the Dapper extension, and when the new features are released, you'll most likely get automatically upgraded, so you'll see those. And then the one other thing that I wanted to mention is my team also very recently released a tie extension. And if you're familiar with Project Tie, or if you're not, go check it out. I'm not going to do a demo or anything. I just wanted to let you know that there is a tie extension that tie and Dapper work really well together. Tie makes it a lot easier to start multiple services. Tie knows about Dapper, so it can start your Dapper services. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That's up on the VS Code Marketplace, and it's TYE. It is geared towards .NET developers today. There are some escape hatches to start some other external EXEs and things, but primarily .NET today. But we'd love your feedback. This is an experiment we're doing. The extension helps you scaffold and debug and things like that. And of course, start your multiple Dapper applications. So the 2 work really well together. So thanks, Ori. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, sure. I want to go over some of the questions that popped up here. So first I saw something from, wait, there's quite a bit, so let me see. I saw something from Mr. Jenks on Visual Studio itself. So I think even Simon responded to that, just basically on support for Visual Studio. I think that is something we're considering. That's something on the roadmap. I see there's a mention of Dapper Sidekick, which was introduced in the last community call. But definitely, I think we have a goal, an overall goal, to improve the tooling for Dapper across the board. the current effort on Visual Studio Code, we know that is a very popular tool and IDE for people, especially in the open source world, where Dapper kind of, I think, has a kind of a strong kind of community. So I think that's where our focus is right now. But yeah, the more we hear from the community on what you guys are interested to see and for us to do, then we'd love to meet any other suggestions. Then I see that Xavier is asking, this extension is mainly meant for Dapper run commands, not for Kubernetes deployed applications. I think for now, the focus is, and keep me honest here, Mike and Jason, I think the focus here right now is on the kind of local development self-hosted scenario for now. I think definitely we are, when we're kind of trying to think of the visualizations and some of the menus, we are keeping in mind the possibility that we would like to extend it in the future. So it's also useful for people who even doing dev on Kubernetes, right? But definitely maybe even in some production scenarios. So we're trying to keep that in mind. But right now, that's not the focus. I don't know if Mike, you have anything.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Ori. We're focused on what I would call the inner loop, so your local development story. And actually, my team is not focused just on local dev. I won't say it that way, but the inner loop is where we are focused. My team also has a product called Bridge to Kubernetes. And so if you are developing on Kubernetes, we kind of have this hybrid solution where you can actually debug on your local machine while referencing all your other services that are running up on any Kubernetes service, whether it's in the cloud or Kubernetes cluster, sorry, whether that's in the cloud or local. So I won't say just local, but I will say we're focused on the inner loop primarily at this time.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And I've seen some more questions on Thai. So I don't know if you want to quickly address those, but
actually, maybe what we should do is in the future show how Thai and Dapper together are really great, rather than take the time that we didn't schedule in here.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. I think in a future community call for sure. I think that would be useful. Anything else that I missed? I don't know if there's more things here. So I guess if there isn't anything on the VS Code extension, really.
Well, the one thing I will answer, George asked, when's Thai moving from experimental? It's not in weeks, probably not even in months, George. We're not ready to commit to it as a long-term product yet. But again, the more feedback we get and the more interest and usage and customer success stories, the more likely that will become something that's not just an experiment. Thanks, Ori.
Great. So I do want to open it up for general Dapper topics, discussions, questions, feedback. Please drop it in the chat. If you feel it's easier to just speak to stuff, then let me know. I can unmute you. But really, this is your time. So general question from Xavier. The discussion around the JS SDK was raised. Is there any update on this already? So I know Archer or Mark, if you can speak to the JavaScript SDK. I'm not sure I know what discussion was raised, but Xavier, maybe let you.
Yeah, we are prioritizing the JavaScript, so the work now for the next 6 months. The JavaScript SDK, we're looking to that. We're not sure yet if we're gonna make it in or not. What exactly is the need for the JavaScript SDK? Like who is necessarily blocked by that? That there'll be a great argument for us to put a priority in the JavaScript SDK.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could just talk about. I mean, are you starting to use the Java SDK in some production scenarios and building out things yourself? I mean, feel free to kind of put some comments in the Java SDK repo around this, because it really helps us kind of drive where the prioritizations are if you're starting to use it.
Yeah, maybe it's just if I may give some context around that. So I think the question was raised a couple of months ago to replace that one with a more user-friendly
Yeah.
SDK. I started working on a completely new version already, and I'm utilizing that one in production right now for some of the services I wrote. But there was some discussion about making that the main repo. But I don't know. I think Yaron was involved on that one, and I'm not sure how it's going to progress right now because it's sitting there. The tests are there. I got some other guy as well pinging me around it all the time. So I'm just wondering if I need to keep it in the separate branch, if we will merge it into the main one, or if the features in the main one will just change.
So if you have a separate, you said you have a fork of the SDK that you worked on.
I wrote an entirely new one.
Okay, so we have this experience in the past where we onboarded the PHP SDK that way. Roadwork, there you go. So I think that would be great for us to look into your SDK because we welcome brand new SDKs for the community. So do you have an issue talking about that or a PR tracking that discussion?
I don't think there's a PR because it was started from scratch basically, because it's also has proto updating automatically built in. But I can make an issue. I can make a PR, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, let's make an issue to track this and point to this repo, and we can have some of the maintainers take a look. And I think that this would be an amazing contribution, especially if you're using it in production. That's like almost like battle tested already, right?
Yes,
yeah, depends on the features.
Yeah.
Yes, if you are that's true, and if you are and if you work based on this, that's also another way for you to become a maintainer because maintainership is per repository. So I think it will be great for us to look into this repo. But thanks, we're gonna look to that.
Okay, thank you. I also listed the link to that issue because it was opened apparently in November last year.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll start to pick up on this.
Yeah, I think this is really aligned with stuff we've been discussing for the next 6 months. So this is terrific. Thank you, Xavier.
Yeah. So let's use the existing issue to follow up on that. I'll include myself in the discussion. Thanks.
So unless I missed anything, I'm not seeing any more questions or topics. I'm going to give another minute or two for people to drop something. I don't know if any of the maintainers have anything they want to talk about or ask the community. So I guess we can wrap it up for today. So thank you to all the presenters. I think this was a great call today. We saw some really cool stuff. And again, please, if you come up with more feedback and more questions, or you're watching this on YouTube right now recorded, please reach out to us on Discord with any questions, feedback, specifically on the VS Code extension. We really are looking. We are in the middle of prioritizing some issues and trying to really make the extension more useful and impactful for developers. So we'd love to get your feedback and your cooperation working on it. But aside from that, as always, Discord, GitHub issues, that's the way to kind of communicate and do things on the project. So thank you again, and we'll see you again, most likely in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.